Hi, Richard.
I guess.
Today, with me here at Dawsons Podcast, I've got an acclaimed author or authority on blue and white transfer printed pottery and also a ceramics expert in his own right, Dr. Richard Halliday. Thank you for joining us. Hello, Richard. Having said all that, I'm going to dispense with the formalities because it just seemed a little bit staged, Richard, because we've known each other for how long now? Must be.
We must have known each other 20 plus years, I would think.
Yeah, I should think so.
Got to be that.
I think when we first met, I probably had hair, maybe. I don't know. So, Richard, you're a dealer, you're an authority, you do a lot of work with Spode Museum. What kicked it up? Of course, I knew your dear mother, sadly now gone, Rosemary. Thought very highly of her. So what kicked it off, Richard? What was the fascination in blue and white?
Blue and white. Well, I had no choice really in antiques. Fifth generation. I grew up with it when I was a kid. It was always there. My mother particularly dealing.
Yeah.
Blue and white. When I was at school, she bought a big collection one time when I was off ill, as I was always, seemed to be at school ill, and it just spoke to me. She had a big collection, and it just spoke to me. I'd seen the odd piece that she'd bought along the way, but seeing a lot of it together, I was able to really get involved with it. She went to the library and borrowed some books, which really helped me understand it more. And it's been an ever present.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, when we think, and forgive me, this is a little bit of a simplistic question, but when the general populace, when you ask them about blue and white pottery, or they'll probably class it as porcelain, even though it isn't a porcelain. When they think of blue and white, instantly what springs to mind is the ubiquitous willow pattern. But it's far more diverse than that, isn't it?
Oh gosh, yeah. They did so much more. Floral patterns, landscape, animals, sheep patterns, chinoiserie like the willow. They did everything.
Yeah.
Absolutely everything.
I think I'm right in saying that you've got. Am I right from memory that you've got a love of a particular? Well, probably more so than others. Is it the Durham Ox?
Yeah,
is one of your favourites?
It is. Yeah, I've got quite a few pieces of that. It was one of those aspirational pieces when I was coming up. The big platters with John Day on were making £5,000 or £6,000.
Yeah.
We bought one that was in half that I was allowed to keep for about 10 minutes, and then needs must, and it was sold. Wow. But now I've got two of those, another 6 or 7 pieces, and if I can show you this.
Yeah, absolutely. Fascinating. Oh, yeah. And just for the viewers, Richard, I mean, I know, but let's just sort of put the sort of flesh on the bones. What is that, Richard?
That is a drainer. It sits in a meat plate, and it's got the big hole that allows you to lift it out.
Yeah.
And the meat would sit on top of that, and it would drain.
Oh, I see. I'm guessing then that by the sheer nature of these things, thinking about it, greasy fingers, fat off the meat.
Yeah.
You lift it out, bang, falls on the floor. And so I suppose that makes it even rarer, doesn't it? I guess
it does. They typically, it's a rare thing to find a drainer, and one in decent condition as well is very difficult.
Yeah.
And the Durham Ox one, I believe it's the third one known.
Oh, really?
So yeah.
So a documentary piece, effectively.
Yeah. I bought that probably 6 or 8 months ago.
Okay.
Cost me about £1,000, and hope to keep that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
I think it's probably worth between 2,000 and 3,000.
Excellent.
It's a nice example as well.
That's where specialist knowledge, that's where specialist knowledge pays out, isn't it? And of course, it's an investment in your time and effort.
It is, yeah.
And people don't understand the investment made in in the study and the research. And my father used to say that any kind of education costs, and he used to
mm,
say whether it's in blood, sweat, and tears or
mm,
gelt,
mm,
and it is the truth. At
mm.
55, I've sort of learnt this. There's no alternative really. You have to go through the process, which you have. Can you remember, Richard? I'm asking, these are really simplistic questions, but these are questions that. So I apologise, but I guess they're going to be
No, that's
questions that
about
are
my level.
no, 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 no. Well, way above mine then. But can you remember your first piece that you purchased?
I can, and I still have it.
Really?
Which, yeah, the first. I mean, I'd seen it all my life, all my childhood, and then that collection. But I remember going to Newark. Newark was one of the big
Yeah,
things to look forward to. The big Newark Antique Fair, which my parents exhibited at.
yeah.
And in the mid 90s, I was wandering around on my own, as I often did, and I found a plate, and it was cracked in half and glued, and it was cheap, and I just thought I've got to have that,
Yeah,
and
excellent.
I've still got it
And
today.
there it is.
Yeah, I
Fantastic.
just it's
But properly restored now.
and no, it's got arrowdite on it holding it
Oh
together.
well.
A big lump of
Oh, yeah.
arrowdite.
Okay. Well, I mean that
It
doesn't
was just
matter.
it was just one of those things. It's a good English bucolic scene
Yeah.
with a named scene on it. Kirkham Priory in Yorkshire. It's got cows. John Mear made it,
Yeah.
who were a good quality pottery in Stoke, 1820s. It's got a nice border. It's called pineapple border because it's got
Oh, I
pineapples
see. Yeah, yeah,
in the border.
yeah. Which was a
Um,
status symbol in the 18th and 19th century. The pineapple.
mm,
Funny enough, a colleague and I were discussing it, and you could actually hire for your dinner parties in the
mm,
late 18th century. You could hire wooden pineapples,
yeah.
to be the
Mm,
centerpiece of your
mm,
your dessert offering on the tars, as it were.
mm.
Sounds bizarre, but there you go. It's the kind of
Mm.
snippets of bizarre information that
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
that we accrue, isn't it?
Mm.
What would you say would be the rarest piece of blue and white transfer print that you've
Um,
handled?
Rare. It's a subjective term, isn't it? I
I
think people
guess.
confuse rarity with value as well.
Yes.
In terms of value, there's a big 21-inch platter, the arms of Pennsylvania,
All right.
made by Mayer in Stoke for the American export market, and
Ah,
they come up maybe once a year in America,
yeah,
and they typically make $20,000 or $30,000.
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
desperate to find a couple of those over here
Well,
for next to nothing, but
yeah, right. Yeah, we'll keep an eye
still
on
looking,
ourselves.
still looking.
Yeah.
Um, Sorry, yeah. In terms of rarity, I've trying to collect named and dated things, which are unique by their thing. They're made for an event.
Sure.
Um, can I just? I'll get you some off
Absolutely.
the shelf. Um,
Oh yeah.
fellow rural scenery, but it's got the insert of Arthur Shackleton.
Sure.
Would have been a unique mug made for perhaps a marriage or a birth or something similar.
And then
And I've
presented
got
perhaps.
yeah, yeah, and I've got probably 20 pieces like that,
Yeah.
which are unique. And the if you're into genealogy and stuff like that, you can
Yeah.
really get involved
Yeah.
with finding out who these people
Yeah.
were.
Local history, I
And yeah,
guess.
exactly. Yeah, there's so much
Yeah.
more to blue and white than just an object on the shelf. There's the history of it, why it was made, when, by whom, for whom. It's quite a broad subject.
Well, I guess I've
Mm,
kind of put the cart before the horse slightly, in as much that really I should have asked you to sort of flesh out the process of, because I believe, well, actually, I do know it to be true because we know each other quite well. You did quite a lot, or you have done quite a lot of work with the Spode Museum.
yeah.
Um, and didn't you undertake the interviews of some of the former craftsmen who had gone through an apprenticeship and would have been involved in the engraving and the plates and the printing and
Hmm.
the so on and so forth? Didn't you engrave a plate?
I did, yeah, for my sins. Not well, not well.
Well, better than I could do it.
Yeah, I Spode, the factory closed in 2008, and I just wanted to get involved soon after that, to put something back. I made a
Yeah,
living of sorts through, a lot through Spode,
sure.
and I wanted to put something back. And I
Yeah,
got involved helping them in the museum. I did a bit of demonstrating and helping move stuff around and fundraising and whatnot. And I was involved there for probably 7 or 8 years, something like that.
sure,
And
sure.
yeah, in terms of craftsmen, um, when I was approached by Manchester Metropolitan University to do a PhD, I just thought I was in the right place at the right time. I've got to record the skills of the people who work there, and engraving was the thing that I wanted to look at, because that's where blue and white comes from, is hand engraved copper plates.
Sure.
And I interviewed 7 or 8 of the engravers who work there. I've sent the sound files back to the British Museum,
Oh,
to their library, so they'll be preserved forevermore.
excellent.
And yeah, I did my PhD looking at engravers, the apprenticeship, the skill acquisition, 7-year apprenticeship for an engraver, which is quite something.
It's quite something.
Yeah,
Just a testament to the skill, isn't it,
yeah. I
involved?
mean, people say, "Oh, blue and white's only printed." Apart from the skill of printing is quite incredible. I've done quite a bit of printing through demonstrating at the Spode Museum,
Sure.
and just trying to get the print central on a blank plate is very, very difficult. Getting the borders to line up, that is an awful job at times.
And
But before that, the engraving to do a 10-inch dinner plate like that one
yes.
would take about 6 or 7 weeks worth of work to engrave that
Good
onto a
heavens.
copper plate. I've got a couple of copper plates here. I don't know how well they'll come
Oh,
across.
yeah.
That
Oh,
is
yeah.
a
As
Royal
you roll
Worcester
the
one.
light against it, we can see. And so, just touching on Richard, the process involved. So
Yeah.
the the pottery plate, let's say a plate
Yeah.
for argument's sake, is potted.
Hmm.
It's unglazed, and
Yeah.
what happens from there?
They, looking at the most simplistic way, the copper plate that you've just seen, they will put color. If you say ink in the industry, you get shot. It's known as color.
Oh, okay, okay,
The color is put on the plate. It's scraped off so that there's no excess left. Some tissue paper is put on it. It's run through a press, and then you get I can't really show you that well, but
it
that
doesn't
kind of
matter.
thing. It's transferred
Okay,
to
okay,
another to tissue paper.
sure.
Then it's put down onto the blank plate, rubbed on, and then it's washed off. The tissue washes off and leaves the color.
Oh, I see.
Then it's put into kiln and it's hardened off and it removes the oil. Then it's glazed and fired.
Oh,
Um,
okay. So there are quite a few hands, aren't there? Would it be
yeah,
right
I
in
mean,
saying that it wouldn't be there'd be an engraver?
yeah,
Obviously, there'd be a potter,
yeah,
but the printing process proper
mm,
is there'd be an engraver. There'd be a separate person to apply the transfer.
yeah. And they were often families. The father would have been the printer, because that was
Sure,
quite a physical job, running, operating the press.
sure.
And then he would hand the tissue to his daughter, who would cut out the center, and then to his wife, who would then put it down.
Yeah,
And then they would only get paid for goods that came out of the oven, out of the kiln, correctly. If
really.
things were broken during firing, they got no pay. And they would often, I don't think this has got anything on it. I don't think you see that, but you can see that little mark there.
Oh, yes.
That's called a workman's mark or a team mark, and that would apply to that printing family. And that's how they knew when they came out. They looked at how many with that mark survived, and then they would be paid
Pay
on
them
that.
accordingly.
Yeah.
Yeah, incredible. So, um, but to your credit, you have is it several books and one in press at the moment?
Yeah, I've written 6 or 7, 7 or 8, somewhere around there. This was the most recent one.
Yeah.
which I co-wrote with a colleague in the USA, which looked at the link between the interest in chinoiserie and
Yeah.
the English ceramic market, British ceramic market,
Yeah.
uh,
I'm
and then currently the one that's just at the publisher now is about the process of engraving. During my work with the Spode Museum and PhD, I met an engraver who worked at Spode since the 1970s. He was one of the last people to work there in 2008, and there's never been any documentation on the process. It was an observational learning thing, and the apprentice would work with a master
yeah.
and learn that way. So there's no guidebooks, there's no records of how it was done. So I thought someone's got to record this because they're all
It's
70s, 80s.
social history.
It will die with them.
Yeah.
And I just thought I was in the right place at the right time, and I had to do it.
Yeah. More credit to you.
So yeah, thank you. I went to his house every couple of weeks in Stoke and recorded him engraving.
Yeah.
And every little step along the way, we went to the coppersmith, get a piece of blank copper to start with. Every line he cut on the copper plate, every hole he punched, I recorded it. Which, as I said before, it would have taken him 6 weeks to do at work, but somehow it managed to go on for 8 years, this process with me and him,
Wow.
probably because he enjoyed the pub lunch I bought him after our work, I'm sure. But this is the engraving that he did for, I don't know how well that's coming
We can
across, but
sort of see it as you roll it against the light. I kind of almost recognise that.
yeah, it's probably the third most produced pattern, Wild Rose, which is an
Wild Rose.
Oxfordshire view.
Is that Newnham Courtney? Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, well done. 11 out of 10.
I'm glad you picked that one, Richard. That's the only one I know. That and Willow.
But yeah, he always liked this pattern. There was a few things he didn't like in the original that he wanted to change, which he wasn't allowed to do during his working life.
Sure.
But he can do what he wants now, so he changed several things.
That's amazing, isn't it? Really.
He said that's modelled on me, but
oh, really?
I don't see it.
Well, what a claim to fame!
Yeah, exactly. There were some more trees in this bit that he just thought was too clumsy to cut them out. Various things he changed. This is hard chrome plated.
Okay.
It is copper underneath
for resilience, I guess.
Yeah, which they say increases the lifespan of the engraving by tenfold.
Okay. Yeah, because chrome being very hard. Yeah.
Yeah, and here is a print onto paper from that engraving, which you'll see is reversed because it's taking one print off reverses it, but transfer printing you take it off and then put it back down
and then put it back on.
Yeah, so it's the correct way around.
Yeah.
So that's what the current book is on. It's just
excellent. And when will that be in the shops, Richard?
In the next couple of months, I would hope. Yeah, it's just I felt it was my duty to record this.
Well, if anyone is interested in any of Richard's books, please feel free to contact me, James at Dawsons, and I'm more than happy. In fact, I'd like to think, we can collaborate on some things. And obviously, Richard, your wealth of knowledge speaks for itself. And maybe it'd be nice. I mean, we kind of lost touch for more than several years, and it was nice to work with you again in rather hostile environment. We were, now I'm sitting in an air conditioned office, and you're at home, and and so it's nice to see us come out of the other side, as it were. But what comes across is your passion for this, and your passion has driven your endeavour and your commitment to preserve these skills that will die unless you stepped in, would die with the craftsmen, wouldn't they?
Absolutely, yeah. I just felt I was in the right place at the right time. If I didn't do it, nobody else would preserve this, and then people would look back and think, what's happened to that? We don't understand how that worked, how these processes happened.
Sure.
And it's not just about making money, and that you build relationships with people and the things. And when I started in it, I was only interested in the product, the blue and white ceramic.
Sure.
And now that's the least important thing to me. It's the processes, it's the people.
Sure.
That's the historical
We
side of it's much more important.
we're of an age now. I mean, I think you're slightly younger than I am.
44, sadly.
Yeah, 55 here,
Mm,
and look, but I
mm,
think as we go through, we realize that it's all about relationships. It's
mm,
all about interpersonal relationships, and every day's a school day. I
mm,
talk to you, I learn
mm,
something. I talk to someone at the front counter, you learn
mm,
something. And I think it's never a fait accompli. It's a we're works in progress.
mm,
I think in this business,
mm.
and I think that's a brilliant thing. So but I think I'm selling you short. In actual fact, Richard, apologies, but in actual fact, it's not just your love is blown white transferware, yeah, but ceramics, English ceramics, isn't it? I mean,
Yeah.
you'll cover all bases.
Yeah,
Um,
late 18th, early 19th.
yeah,
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 blue and white's my love, but it's similar processes, similar making, same factories
sure.
that made pearlware, creamware, porcelain, salt glaze, whatever. Yeah, and I absolutely love any aspect of British porcelain
Yeah,
and pottery.
excellent. Richard, I've kept you long enough. Thank you very much. It's been
Not at
most
all.
enlightening, and let's see if we can do something soon. If
Absolutely,
anyone
James.
has any questions for Dr. Richard, please feel free, and we'll pass them on. If you want to know about his books, please, and if you want to start a collection, let us know. We can put you in touch. I'm sure Richard would be more than happy to give you a little bit of advice.
Wonderful.
Excellent.
Super.
Richard,
Thank you very
take
much,
care.
James.
Thank you.
Yep.
Bye.
Thanks.
Bye.